Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very empowering show coming right up with special guest Lee McCormick, and he's here today to share with us his new book, The Heart Reconnection Guidebook. Born into a tribe of movers and shakers, Lee has always lived out loud. He is the founder of the Integrative Life Center in Nashville, the Ranch Recovery Center in Tennessee, and the Canyon Treatment Center in Malibu, California. And he's been a creative force in the mental health and recovery scene for over 20 years. So let's welcome to the show, Lee McCormick.
Well, hey there, Marianne. It's good to be with you.
What a joy it is to have you here, and especially to talk about this book. I mean, my goodness, this book's a game changer.
You know, the book represents a lot, and it's like the first installment in what's ultimately going to be, I think, a new paradigm platform, for how we look at ourselves and our lives and our relationships to being here. So, I'm excited about it, and it's a really cool, it's been a really cool, interesting process so far.
Well, and so why don't you share with our listeners that might be new to you? I know we've had Mary on the show here before, but why don't you share with us, what inspired you to write this book?
The book came out of a conversation that Mary Faulkner and myself, Joan Borisenko and her husband, Gordon DeViren, and Gary Seidler, who is one of the owners of HCI Books and U.S. Journal Trainings conferences, and then Holly Cook, who I work with at the Integrative Life Center. Holly is a therapist and like a master trainer, an amazing clinician, and really kind of a life guide person. So it was a really dynamic group of people. We were all in Santa Fe for a conference, and we were all over at Joan's house having this conversation around our cultural point of view and the evolution of addiction treatment and mental health treatment, the scripts, the points of view, the belief systems that we all are born into, what we inherit when we come into the world as a point of view of good and bad and right and wrong, and the whole dynamic of legacy that we inherit. And in that conversation between us, of course, there's a lot of experience. There was, nearly 300 years experience in working with people in different disciplines as such. But it was all related to healthcare, wellness, happiness, transformation, recovery. So there was a congruent thread through all of it. And we all shared different perspectives that the basis that most mental health or addictions or even a lot of the self-help perspectives, the basis of so much of that, the basis of our perspective as a culture is really based in judgment and fear, and that happiness is the result of compliance with inherited belief systems, and that we're not taught as children growing up that we are good enough by the fact that by the fact that the Creator saw fit to put us here, right? There's not an innate goodness in us that's not really in question, and that our relationships, the quality of our life really stems from and grows from the foundational agreements that we make as children, or that we're taught as children, and that there's a great opportunity to shift that paradigm, shift it away from goodness and value must be earned in the world, and shift it to a place of where each unique individuals, and we all have gifts and talents, and a unique way of living life in the world. and that should be honored and respected as a foundation of life, of discovering the truth of who am I really, as opposed to basing our lives on rules and regulations and standards and just various aspects of compliance, that in order to be good enough, you need to make A's, or you have to be a good Jew, or you have to be a good Christian, or you have to anything, and just shift that paradigm. And so the book came about as the beginning or the first installment in what we are collectively working on together and creating I guess you could say a more accepting, respectful basis of our relationship to life. And just giving people an opportunity and encouraging them to respect themselves and to question all of these things that we're taught as kids, that may or may not be true, and to open up this dialogue.
It's so interesting when we think about the things as children that we've learned, and we've taken it as truth because we have parents that we rely on, or teachers, or other very well-meaning adults within our lives that sometimes are giving us information that's not accurate, and that's what we have to go based off of. And so we take these things throughout our lifetime as truths and misperceptions. And so I really appreciated your book because it really asks for us to question these.
Yeah, well, as kids, of course, we learn our way of being in the world from the environment that we grew up in. And we do have unique personalities. And of course that's a big part of it. And we inherit a legacy. We inherit a powerful legacy when we're born into this world. And then as adults, I think as adults, we are 100% responsible for the belief systems that we have woven together for ourselves growing up. And we're completely responsible for our opinions and our point of view. And so often there's so much fear woven into our culture, and we inherit so much fear, that if you don't do this right, you're not good enough, or you'll never be okay in the world, or you're going to go to hell, or there's just fear at every turn. And that's a learned fear. That's not an innate fear, as in the fear of falling off a cliff. That's literally a physical animal fear that's based in survival. It's learned fear. It's an aspect of a frequency that's in our consciousness that's passed on from generation to generation. And it doesn't serve us. It doesn't serve us in any way, shape, or form, other than it does cause a dis-ease, a discomfort, an anxiety, a conflict. And in that the conflict that's created by the fear, by the judgment that comes along with it, in those conflicts is the opportunity to pay attention to what am I believing, and why am I pushing back, and why does this not feel right, and is this really something I want to attach myself to or weave into my perception of life. So, the conflict, the anxiety, the dis-ease, all of that is actually an invitation to pay attention. It's the way I look at it. And so even though so much of the way that we live in the world, so much of our culture is so conflicted, the humans, I think if you really step back and look at the overall picture, we humans appear to be pretty much insane. And then we have these amazing redeeming qualities, while the major drivers of our cultures just seem to continue to perpetuate conflict and greed and, so much stuff that's just not working for us. And there's so much fear and resistance to questioning the tenets that we've based our culture on. And so that's going to have to come from the bottom up. And then again, you come back to the book, you come back to the work we do, our humanity, our human relationship to life on Earth is going to change from the bottom up. We're going to wake up one person at a time. We're going to reclaim our divinity or our happiness, our joy, our freedom, our creativity. We're going to have to reclaim that one person at a time, one choice at a time. And so the truth is this is going to work from the bottom up. You're not going to find a fix from the top down, because we each have to clean ourselves. We each have to address those judgments and projections, heartbreaks, behaviors that undermine our happiness and undermine the quality of our relationships, in the world and to the spirit, whatever interpretation of spirit you might have a relationship with. If we're miserable humans, we're not going to have very good relationships with faith or spirit either, and we're 100% responsible for that. Each of us is 100% responsible for the relationships that we're carrying. We may not be responsible for what we inherited as a legacy, and we are 100% responsible for how we respond to that legacy.
Well, in the book, the Heart Reconnection Guidebook, it talks about the heart-mind connection and why that's so important, and if it's disconnected, why we need to kind of get back in alignment. And I'd love for you to just expand on that a little bit for our listeners.
Sure. One of the practices that I do with people regularly is have someone sit and just put all your attention into your mind. Give all your attention to the thoughts that you're having. Give all your attention to, that internal dialogue that goes on in our mind. And be conscious of, feel that frequency of thought. And if you think about it, again, if you reflect on it, maybe is a better term, the truth is we don't really have any idea where our thoughts come from. A part of our, an aspect of our thoughts clearly come from programming. They come from, stories. It's loops of repetition. And at the same time, we don't have any idea what the next thought that's going to enter our mind is going to be. So we can't, for a fact, say that we know where our thoughts are coming from. And thought is literally a script of the mind, and that script of the mind operates largely, not completely, but operates largely off of what I call the hard drive of the mind's memory and the way our individual minds have been programmed. Again, we inherit that legacy. That legacy is a large part of the programming that we have been downloaded with through education and teaching and experience in life. And then we end up seeing the world through the filters of that programming. So the mind is also the source of how we dream. The mind is the source of judgment. It's not the heart that judges right, wrong, good, bad. It's not the heart that projects. It's the mind that judges and projects. And the mind is quite a ruthless judge. The mind loves to judge because the mind loves to categorize, and separate things out and compartmentalize. It's one of the ways the mind operates. All of that is well and good until our relationship to ourself first and our relationship to the life around us is completely subject to the mind. And what I mean by that is that me, Lee, I'm a human being, and I am the awareness that I have a mind. I'm not the thoughts in my mind or the voices in my head. I'm the one that hears them. If you think about that, like if you're the voices in your head, then who's listening? Who's hearing them? So I'm the witness to the things that I think. I'm the witness to the thoughts that come through my mind. So in that relationship, if I'm not conscious of that, and if I'm not in a place of responsibility for how I respond to my thoughts, then I end up with my mind running my life, and I, Lee, end up following the mind because I'm living in reaction to what I'm thinking or to what I'm, how my thoughts are or interfacing with my beliefs, and then the judgment that comes from that, and the projection that comes from that. So I am greater than my mind. I am the awareness that I'm in a human body. I'm the awareness that I have a mind. I'm the awareness that I'm feeling my emotions. I'm the awareness that is having the human experience. If I drop from the mind, if I shift my attention from the mind and all that busyness, and I breathe my attention down into my heart and down into what I call my heart, breathe my attention down into my body. When I speak of the heart, I'm talking about the center of our being, like the seat of our soul in our body. It's our center place, not the romantic heart. That's a very small aspect of the whole. If I bring my awareness down into my body and down into my heart center, it's a much calmer, much more peaceful, resilient place to rest my attention. And what we do know from science, what we do know is that, the heart contains some of the same cellular structure, and actually the heart has mind or brain-like aspects to it. So some of the same structure that exists as our brain also exists in the heart. To live life from a place of heart, number one, what it presents us with the opportunity of addressing all those experiences that we've lived in life that have led to heartbreak or have led to abandoning ourselves. So the sense of loss, the sense of fear, the sense of self-worth, whether it's good or not, or whether it's positive or whether it's judgmental. So many things come up when we shift our attention out of our mind and drop our attention down into our heart center. And it offers an opportunity to, as an adult, to question those things, to sit with those things. Is that really true? And then to look for help or support in resolving the issues that are going on with us, that we do hold the power, we do hold the ability to resolve those issues, and we're going to have to make the quality of our relationship with our heart a priority. We have to be willing or interested. I guess you have to be interested first, and then you find the willingness to work with yourself, to find the support that you might need, or, a crew of people that you can share this process with that allows us to shift the nature of how we live as a human being and to move away from everything being based in our reason to our life being in balance between the deeper awareness of the heart, which is a direct link to the spirit, and the knowledge that the mind has available to it. Because the mind is a great tool, but our mind is not a good boss. It's a great tool and a bad boss. You're much better off working for your heart than you are working for your mind. And the two together, once they're connected and who we are really as consciousness are holding both in balance and living in relationship with both in balance, then we truly become our greatest self as a human being. We have both aspects available to us.
Well, isn't that the truth, And it's interesting, when we allow ourselves to get in this place where we're coming from the heart, other people notice that and they're attracted to that.
Yeah, well, it's a resonance, right? It's a frequency. It's like we become the light that we literally lighten up, especially when we do the work to clean ourselves, to clean the heartbreaks and the heavy energy and the fear and the judgment. And we work through that stuff and let that old stuff go and shift our attention back to being in the present moment and live life from a place of respecting ourselves. If we don't respect ourselves first, we don't really respect the world we live in. We may live in a relationship of fear or desire for things or judgment of things as good or bad. But I just don't think that you can genuinely respect someone or something else unless you truly have a relationship of respect with yourself as a human being, and with your right and your responsibility to come to terms with who are you really and what is the reason for your being in this world. If you believe that something greater than ourselves created us, then there's an intent behind our being here. And I've come to realize that I have a responsibility to fulfill the intent in my being in this world. That's my responsibility and nobody else's. And so if I'm not living in relation to that intent, then I can just kind of run around on the planet and do human stuff my whole life, and I might never really discover, the depth of my heart and spirit and soul and what I might and what I might have to contribute here on a deeper level than, how much money I can make or how many degrees I can earn or, all this surface level stuff that our culture has come to basically make gods out of. We've made little demigods out of wealth and power and prestige and just a whole bunch of stuff that's about a mile wide and an inch deep.
I would agree with you on that. It's interesting how that perception changes when we start looking at things in a little bit of a different way, when we start really looking at connection and, connection with the universe, Father, God, whatever people want to call it. When we have that deep connection and we really start questioning, like, what am I here to do and what do I offer? And it has nothing to do with money. And I really appreciate you kind of just sharing that. I think it's so important for our listeners to hear about that.
Well, yeah, and there's nothing wrong with money. There's nothing wrong with, having power in my. I think they come with a responsibility. If you're blessed enough to make a lot of money, I think along with that opportunity comes a responsibility for how you respond to it.
Well, on that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been speaking with Lee McCormick in regards to his new book, The Heart Reconnection Guidebook. You're listening to Moments with Marianne. We'll be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special, when you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly free place. Here's where their lives were forever changed and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 123 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
There are nearly 2 million Americans living with amputation. Many live right here in San Antonio. Becoming an amputee can be scary, frustrating, isolating, but there's no reason to feel alone. The San Antonio Amputee Foundation is here to help support you and guide you toward resources such as home and car modifications and even prosthetic limbs. For more information or to make a donation, visit saamputee.org. We'll help you live a full, active life, one step at a time. San Antonio Amputee Foundation, healing limbs, hearts, and souls.
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We're here today with special guest Lee McCormick, and he's sharing with us his new book, The Heart Reconnection Guidebook. Now, Lee, before we went for break, we were talking about money. And, it's interesting. A lot of times when people are going through difficult times or they're doing good in the world, money can be a little bit of an angst. And I love how you feel that is not a problem and it should be okay to make money.
If you from our Heart Reconnection point of view, from the book's point of view, if you accept yourself and you accept the idea that all humans were created to be exactly who they are, and that we all have innate value, and that our value was established by the one that created us, that it's not necessary for us to go prove we have value. We were born with it. And so we can free ourselves from all that self-judgment and fear and ego that's necessary to go out there and prove yourself, to the world. You already have value. So let's just say we accept that and you let that go. Well, the rest of the journey in this world is simply the interaction with opportunity. It's the interaction with life. It's, it's a dance as such. And some of it is fantastic and some of it is awful. The legacy we inherit in this world is the human legacy. And the humanity has been a mess for a long time. So our opportunity, as well as our responsibility, is when we inherit things that are less than we are capable of. When we inherit being born into heartbreaking situations or totally dysfunctional families or addiction or alcoholism or greed or war and hate, when we're born into that, we're inheriting that because that is the human legacy. We're not inheriting that because of some innate judgment. We're inheriting it because it's what was waiting on us when we got here. And once we've inherited that, and we all inherit a piece of that, once we inherit that, we hold within us the ability to heal those things, to question those things, and to work through it, and then to let it go, so that we can evolve into the truth of why we really came here beyond our addressing that inherited legacy, that wounded legacy. So really the inheritance of suffering, and misery and fear and judgment, all of that inheritance is actually an invitation to wake up to the truth of who you really are, because as we clean ourselves, as we come to terms with all of this and we do the work on ourselves, we discover our compassion and our empathy and our resilience and our creativity. So it's like a blessing curse. On one hand, you look at the human condition and you can say, oh my God, the humans are crazy. We just keep passing misery on from generation to generation and self-doubt and fear. But on the other hand, if you flip the coin, it was that same setup that called us out to waking up to the rest of life, and that wake up is from the inside out. It's from the heart out. It's not from the outside in. See, our culture tells us if we want to be good enough, you got to go out there and earn it. You got to, you have to go make a lot of money or be an expert or write hit songs or, build a company and be worth millions of dollars and own the right car and wear the right jeans and, all this stuff that we inherit that's all really phony. It's not real. It's all part of the dream, part of the matrix. And it's less than the truth of what we are. We're greater than all that. We made that stuff up. Humans made that up as what should be aspired to in life, and then we lose ourselves in it. So it's like I made up a story, and then I lost myself to the story, and while I'm lost in the story, I'm demanding the story bring me peace and happiness and fulfillment. Well, how can the story bring you fulfillment? You made it up, right? The fulfillment is going to have to come from a place greater than we are, a relationship deeper than this imaginary world we live in.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I mean, and it's interesting. Do you feel that when we let the illusion of the story go, then that's when we can really start also allowing the walls that we've built up kind of start releasing those as well?
Well, yeah, because we don't need them anymore. We're not living in fear. And it takes years to work through this stuff, or maybe it takes lifetimes. I don't know. The Buddhists would tell us it takes lifetimes. It's one day at a time with me. It's one life at a time, right? So, yeah, as we step into the things that we fear, as we step into the heartbreaks, as we step into the judgment or the projections that we have been taught are the truth or are real, as we step into that stuff, it pales in comparison to our true heart, to our true awareness. And it's like if it is illusion, if it is not true and it is a matrix of largely lies and misperceptions, then as we step into it and hold a place of non-judgment with it and hold a place of respect for ourselves, all of that stuff starts to come unraveled. We work really hard, all of us, humanity, we work really hard to hold together this matrix of life and reality. I mean, we go to war over it. We go to war to defend lies that we have been taught to believe, that we've given our faith to, that, the way to peace is through war. The way to prosperity is through consumption. The way to happiness is through building up a bigger story or earning more credits on the cultural scorecard, right? And we've been doing that for generation after generation after generation. And so often the best we come up with is a temporary sense of peace or a temporary sense of accomplishment. And the energy around it there's always fear around it. There's always a need to protect it. Like build a wall to protect everybody from the bad guys on the other side of the wall. We just keep perpetuating these fear-based ways of living in relationship to life. And the invitation from life is always to bring our attention back to ourselves, and, it's kind of like Dr. Phil says, and how's that working for you? Like if you've been living your life a particular way your whole life, and if you've never really questioned your belief system or your judgments in your entire life, and we cling to things because we're afraid we don't know any different. And we cling to what we know because it's what we know and it's all we know. And we cling and we cling and we defend it and we defend it and we demand that it has to be right, because underneath we're really scared to death that if I start questioning myself and I find out what I believe is actually not true, then I'll have no value at all. Then what's going to happen to me? My whole world will collapse on me. Well, my experience has been what happens is that we realize that we're so much more than we understood. We're so much more than we believed. And we're so much more than the legacy that we inherited. And that in itself raises us up. And you wake up, one day at a time. You wake up, and over time, you're in a whole new world. You see the world through a different set of eyes, and you realize that you're so much more than you ever could have believed that you are.
Do you feel that in this age that we're in, where information so easily accessible, people are able to get pretty much everything instantly? 2 days it's shipped to your door. That they kind of also expect that in regards to their own spiritual journey and being able to release these patterns that have been developed over a lifetime?
Yeah, I mean, we're a right now oriented culture. We want everything right now. It's interesting. I don't know, 6-7 years ago, I tore my rotator cuff surfing in Malibu. And so like my left arm, I couldn't raise my left arm up over my head. I couldn't paddle a surfboard, right? And it was painful and all that stuff. And I went to a surgeon that actually worked for the Lakers, and he said, I can operate on this. And the truth is, rotator cuff surgery is never 100% effective, and he said, I'm telling you the truth. So, and I could operate on you and you get some relief, but it's not really going to heal this. There's a Chinese medicine doctor in Santa Monica that you ought to go to, and before you make a decision on what you want to do. So I did. I went to this Chinese medicine doctor that actually worked at UCLA. And he was amazing. He went to medical school in China, and he was an acupuncturist. He did acupuncture with electrodes attached to it. So it shot electricity through the needles, right? So he said to me, Americans only want immediate gratification right now. Americans are not patient enough to allow healing. Americans want symptoms resolved right now. He said, I can heal this, and it's going to take 6 months, and you're going to have to come to me twice a week, and you can heal this. Or you could go have the surgery, and you could have an immediate resolution to the issue, but the issue is never actually really going to go away. And so it's a matter of you deciding, do you want the quality? Are you willing to give yourself the time to actually heal? Are you willing to respect that? The choice of healing requires a level of respect, which also requires a level of patience. It was really interesting. And so I did. I went to him for 6 months, and he healed it. Everything's cool. And it's like that in life, like, I don't know, I'll probably get in trouble for this, but a lot of people want to believe that if I just give my faith to Jesus, he's going to make everything okay. Well, I've worked with a lot of Christians over the years that were, quote unquote, born again. And the truth is, they were still carrying all kind of emotional woundedness, but they weren't willing to really drill down into it and look at it because they hung on so determined to their belief that by having faith in something outside of themselves, everything was good enough now. But their lives reflected something very different, and not saying that miracles don't happen, because they do. But what I'm saying is that I don't believe we are ever relieved of the personal responsibility we have to heal and clean and work through and let go of the woundedness that we have inherited or the woundedness that we have perpetuated, and to take 100% responsibility for our life and our choices. We have that ability. We've been given that power to do that. And it calls us out individually to have to step up and to own our place here. And I don't believe I've just not seen it serve us. I'm 60, I'll be 63 tomorrow, and I don't believe that it serves us to not find the way to recover that depth of faith in ourselves, because that's actually grace. Grace is realizing I can heal all this stuff for myself. And yes, a lot of times I need help and I need support, and it's still my choice to step into this healing journey, as opposed to my choice of of just saying, you know what, I'm just going to leave it up to my God to clean all that for me. God didn't create this mess. We did. And we have free will, and we have the power to heal, and we have the power to bring miracles into being. And we just have lost faith in ourselves. And it's the most humbling experience in the world to realize that I had the power all along to undo these things that haunt me, and I just didn't know. I had no idea.
Well, I think it's very encouraging for a lot of people as well, because when they look at, if they go through life feeling like the victim all the time, things are happening to them, where they step then into personal responsibility, then it really kind of allows them to go, okay, well, if these are things that I can work on personally, then there's some, it just allows them to then further, feel that they're able to walk the path a little bit easier, as opposed to constantly getting pummeled by outside forces.
Well, yeah, because we're recovering faith in ourselves. Mm-hmm. We're reclaiming faith in the truth of who we really are and how we are created. I don't know. I'm a rancher and a cowboy too, so I kind of got this weird mix of language I use. But our cowing down to fear and pressure and woundedness, and our making ourselves small because the world has beat us up, is not it's not humility, and it's not serving us. And it does happen because we've not been raised to believe and trust and experience the grace that we have within us and the ability to heal and to move on that we have within us. We live a relationship with life that was inherited from the family we were born into, the community, the religions, the time, the place. We inherit an entire script for life, and it's downloaded into us as children. And so if you've not been raised to have faith in the truth of what you really are and in the light that we carry that gives us life, I'm not my body. I'm the energy, the light, the consciousness that gives life to this body. When I leave my body returns to the earth. I don't, right? I've had enough experiences in my life. I know that I'm not from this world, but I'm in this world, and I have a responsibility to own the opportunities that I come into, to be as fully in my present, in my light, to be as fully engaged in life as I can be. And the more we discover about ourselves, and we discover it kind of accidentally, it's hard to have faith in yourself on a really deep, profound level when you've been giving yourself away to the world for your whole life. When you've been desperate for an identity that's good enough your whole life, because underneath you hold on to agreements that you're not enough, that you're not smart enough, or you're not pretty enough, or you're not cool enough. And then you layer all the other stuff, the trauma that we inherit, the judgment that we inherit. You put all that on top of us, well, we're carrying a big burden. And we're not the burden. We're the one that's carrying it. I'm not my story. I'm the one that created this story, and I didn't understand that at the time. And I do understand that now. And that I hold the power and the ability to unravel that story and to step out from underneath it, to step out from underneath the weight of the trauma or the fear or the judgment, and to come back into relationship with my own heart and spirit first, and to let my relationship with the world be second. A lot of people will say, well, my relationship with God is first. Well, my experience has been I can't know God until I know myself, that I am an expression of the one that created me. I'm not separate from the one that created me. And if I want to wake up to the true presence of the one that created me, I'll realize that through my experience here in relation to that, if that makes sense. And it's all so humbling. It's a trip to figure out that all the suffering and fear and anxiety and anger that's gone on in my life was literally the result of me living for so long with no true awareness that I'm not my place in this world, that I'm not my story, that I'm not my experiences. I didn't understand any of that. It took me 40 years of life to get to a place to where I actually found a way to question everything, and that's, I don't know, that's our journey. Different ones of us wake up at different times and say yes to life at different times. But boy, what I discovered and what I've witnessed with people is it's just amazing. We're amazing beings. Human beings are amazing. We have an amazing power, an amazing connection to healing and to light and to the ability to dream heaven on earth. And we're just caught up into something else. But we've given all our faith to the something else. So we continue to perpetuate what we know rather than taking a break and coming back to discover, the depth of our own heart and spirit.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, when we start diving into that, it's really interesting how much healing can take place. And the Heart Reconnection Guidebook is a good place for people who are looking for some type of guidance and looking for that connection, but not quite sure where to go.
Yeah, it is. And, the thing is it's all respectful, because each of our individual relationships with faith, that's up to each one of us. That's nobody else's business, right? And is the basis of that, is it serving you in your heart and your soul and your spirit and your unique place in this world, or is it something else? And each of us has free will. And no one of us has more value or is more important than any of the rest of us. We're literally all in this together. So the Heart Reconnection Guidebook is an invitation to reflect on all this with yourself,
Mm-hmm.
And we're deserving of that. We're deserving of that. Again, so often we're told if you have an issue, you go to an expert, let the expert give you the solution, give you an answer, give you the medicine. Which there's nothing wrong with going to experts and getting their point of view or their opinion. And that still does not relieve us of the responsibility of how does that quote unquote solution feel to you? Does it feel right to just take that medication, or should you go deeper? And until we have a deep sense of relationship with our own intuition, with our own awareness, with our own innate knowledge, and trust how things feel to us, then we tend to live our life, like we said in the beginning of this conversation, we tend to live our life based in reason and based in the programming that we inherited. And so if I have an issue, I just go to the doctor and the doctor writes me a script and my responsibility ends there. I'm going to take the pill and that's all I'm going to do. Where, a true solution might be you completely change your diet or you change your lifestyle. And that may resolve it better than the pill and actually be a solution rather than just medicating a symptom, which, again, that is a massive issue in our world, is we just want to medicate symptoms in all kinds of ways. So how, what is the opportunity that each of us has in every day to look for our why? Our why is so important. It's the baseline for everything else. Why do I keep doing what I'm doing? What's the end game here? What's my expectation? How do I get there? How do I recover faith in myself? There's a point in the book about learning to sit with questions as opposed to I have a question and I just want to Google the answer and that's that. If we learn to sit with questions, then it gives the universe, it gives God, it gives spirit, it gives our deep innate individual wisdom. It gives life an opportunity to respond from more than one point of view. And it's so important to realize that there are as many points of view as there are eyes to witness any particular situation. There's never one point of view. Never. And yet we're so programmed to be in such a hurry. Just give me the answer so I can move on to the next. Mm-hmm. And it's up to us to change that, to change our way of living in relationship to life.
So with that, I mean, gosh, we could talk for hours in regards to the Heart Reconnection Guidebook. I mean, it's got such great information, and you're just a really, you have a lot of wisdom in regards to this topic and how it's helping people move forward. What are some final thoughts that you would like to leave our listeners with?
That you're worth it. The truth of who you really are has a unique value that's never existed in this world before. Every one of us is a unique individual, and every human that's ever lived has been a unique individual. And the Creator created each of us to come into this world and to discover the truth of who we really are and to convey into the world what we might convey. And you know what? Our lives here could be as simple as just come here and be happy, and be good to yourself and be good to each other and take care of life and take care of the earth and just enjoy yourself here as a human being. That could be the whole package. Maybe that's the whole deal. And how funny would it be if at the end of your life you discovered that the whole intent and the whole reason for your being here was for you to just learn how to express your version of happiness and joy. And each one of us is worth it. You're worth it or you wouldn't be here. That's the truth. The Creator did not create messes and then put us on this planet to try and find some way to redeem our half-baked selves. We're born with value and it's each unique. So there's no comparing. There's no scorecard. Not really. So give yourself a break. Go do more of the things that you love. And if you have weight on your heart and life's dragging you down and you just can't seem to get out from under it all, maybe take the time to buy a couple books. The Heart Reconnection Guidebook could be one of them. But I don't care, whatever book resonates with you. And take some time with yourself and read a book. And take a break from the schedule that you live. Change your patterns. Go to a different grocery store. Drive a different way to work. Get up in the morning and walk for 30 minutes around your neighborhood. Do some things that will shake up all the ways that we get stuck and change those patterns so life can flow through you again. And just see what happens.
Well, I think that's some beautiful advice. And Lee, my goodness, thank you so much for taking this time with us. And before we let you go, where can people connect with you and be part of your community?
Oh, you bet. So I actually have a recovery program, a mental health, addictions, soul healing treatment program in Nashville called the Integrative Life Center. It's integrativelifecenter.com. in Nashville. You can reach me through there. You can reach me through spiritrecovery.com. And you can order the book on Amazon or go order it from a local bookstore. If you have a local bookstore, support your bookstore. Go order it from your bookstore.
Oh, without a doubt. We got to give love to our indie bookstores. Well, Lee, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Lee. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and, of course, to talk about your new book, The Heart Reconnection Guidebook. Again, if you'd like to connect with Lee, you can at his website, spiritrecovery.com. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.